Hi everybody, it's been about 3 weeks since I last did a YouTube video talking about the progress of Veil of Codex, which is my attempt to make the greatest little wargame RPG, if not the greatest little wargame mod ever. And with a claim like that, it seems a bit odd that after 3 weeks, there seems to not be very much change, either in size or in playability, of Veil of Codex. So what's been going on? What has actually changed under the hood, over the hood, and what do we have to look forward to? So with that, I decided I would get a more formal video so you could understand. First thing I want to talk about is development phases. Knowing that people want to see what the product is going to end up being and how much longer I can plan on continuing it before I just put it down for good, I've decided to reveal what the three phases are of Veil of Codex. Whenever you start the game or play versus CPU, you'll see them towards the bottom of the data page. But in summary, they're as follows: features, content, and aesthetics. We're nearly done with all of the features of Veil of Codex currently, but you can see the items that remain there. After that is content. Content is going to be me making a ton of stuff, right? Take what we already have, add more. More towns, more quests, more bosses, enemies, NPCs, interactions, anything you can think of. More. Items, equipment, mercenaries, pets. That's content. The final item is going to be aesthetics. There are beautiful tile sets that have been shown to me by Ninja5511 and plenty of the very talented and very skilled map makers and sprite makers of Little Wargame, so I might get with them at the end for Phase 3 to make sure that that's rounded out and finished. Second thing I want to talk about are the heroes. So I'm a big fan of giving people what's exciting first. So here's what something you may notice. All of the heroes, 5 of them, we'll get to that. All 5 of the heroes now have passive abilities. The Bruiser's ability, Adrenaline, means that when he's out of combat, he gains AoE and damage, but whenever he strikes someone, he loses all of those stacks and regains them rapidly for any time that he is in fact waiting between attacks. The monk has Flowing Fist. This means that the monk starts with a lot of armor to mimic the idea that monks are evasive and dodge a lot of attacks. But the more that the monk attacks, the more armor he loses, but the more damage he gains and the more attack speed he gains. So he'll start off punching slowly and then he'll be getting in the damage at the end. The passive ability of the Black Mage is Glean, which is to say whenever the Black Mage uses a basic attack, he goes ahead and recovers 2 MP or 2 mana. Not much, but the Black Mage is fairly strong in his abilities, so we wanted to augment that without making him feel like a class that he wasn't otherwise. The White Mage has essentially 2, but they're combined into 1. CC and Mollify. Whenever the White Mage strikes an enemy, they will knock them back briefly. This is meant to replace a lot of the damage and to give the White Mage more survivability, emphasizing the White Mage is best with teammates. The other White Mage ability, Mollify, says that whenever the White Mage strikes an enemy, that enemy loses 20% of its damage for a set amount of time. The final passive ability is for the Tamer. It's called Hunter Instinct, and the actual terms of this will change slightly, but it says that whenever the Tamer strikes somebody, they gain a bit more movement speed. Not enough to go around and outrun everything and shoot all by themselves. The Tamer is best used alongside their pets, so I want to make sure that they have the ability to get from pet to pet as what they're managing becomes more and more complicated. The next thing is that all the heroes got hit with the balance stick, and for some of them, it was an ugly stick. For a lot of them, it makes them feel more unique, different, perhaps a little more powerful than they were previously. So what does the balance stick mean? Well, all abilities used to cost 5 mana. That's been fixed. Ability cooldowns used to be pretty low across the board so that they could be tested. They've been raised or lowered as need be, with some abilities being re-envisioned entirely by having much lower cooldowns but maybe costing more mana, or vice versa. All heroes had their hit points for the most part lowered because they were a bit too tanky, and with a few exceptions such as the spellcasting classes, most of them also had their mana lowered. This means that they can't just quite stick around for as long, tank as many hits, and use as many abilities. Finally, the damage was changed for a lot of heroes. Now, after the balance stick, let's talk about another things that heroes have, which is that they actually level up now. Whenever you kill enemies, and there is a list that I'll generate later if there is a need, you gain experience for the enemies that you beat in combat, ranging from 1 for the wolf and snake to 4 for the werewolf, and to complete the list, it's 2 for your boy the raider. Now, this also means that you can get increased levels. Now, the system for how you get rewarded for levels hasn't been borne out entirely, but the system was also made such that I wanted the players to feel like with good play, they could get from levels 1 to 2 without having to go into town, heal, use the inn, or otherwise engage with the other core systems of Veil of Codex. But they can't get to level 3 by doing the same thing. So this encourages players to go into town, heal, see what's going on in there, and then jump back out. Right now, that means that even if you know exactly what you're doing and aiming for, and you're trying to get to level 3, this should give you about 6 to 7 minutes of content per each of the 5 heroes, and if you're not familiar with it, this should probably be more around 10, especially for the more difficult fights. The final thing that I did, there's two more that I really want to talk about, but one big one is feature list housekeeping. Whenever you loaded it into the map previously, there was just an in order list, a chronologically ordered list of all the features that had been put in, all the bugs that had been put in, etc., etc. Well, I decided to clean that up a little bit. People want to know what's in the best mod or in the best little wargame RPG, both of which I'm aiming for. I'm not saying I'm there yet, and I figured it would be easier for them to understand what's in the game if I organized it. So if you go into the map description now, you're going to see an organized list of, oh wow, there's hero progression. All right, what the overworld is going on. Oh, okay, how's the combat breakout? And all these systems are kind of lined up, including some of them that I have mentioned here. The final thing is that there were a heap of bugs that were fixed. Not much to say here. I mean, bugs are bugs. If you didn't notice them before, that's great. And if you did notice them, this should help iron out some of the kinks or at, let's say, the bugs, right? Squash them flat. Well, that's it. That's everything that's in Veil of Codex now. So, what's the next step? Well, I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago that we do have an experience to level 3 system up, but the rewards for those like those gained experiences and those gained levels, haven't been built out yet. And when looking at the little wargame editor, I wanted to make it so that at level 2 you got these upgrades, but at level 3 you got these. Unfortunately, the little wargame editor just does not allow for that. So what I'm going to do, it just tells you, hey, you can have this, this, and this at every single level, not at specified levels. So I'm going to do something I got from a game called Secret of Mana, which is every time you level up, I'm going to have the player gain access to a level up point. And a level up point allows the player to choose between 1 and 3 variations of what they want that level up to do for them. Ideally minimum 2, but if you come around and there's only one choice, that's probably because it's still under development actively at that point. And this does a couple of things. One, every level you'll get some upgrade that you can make that's a minor change, and then I plan on set intervals, maybe levels 3 or every level 5 or every level 10, you will get some bigger upgrade that allows you to pick a choice that is more meaningful and might have impacts on your class, your name, your overworld skin, and things like this. A lot of that will get built out during the content section, so don't get too excited for it just quite yet, but know that it is in fact coming. If you want to know what else is coming down the pipeline, I encourage you to look, as I mentioned previously, there is a development phases that is ordered. So if we look over at what's left after we get to the next item, right? Oh, but what happens after you get done with hero progression for level up points and classes? Well, I'll be working on a how to play, replay, and cutscene map, and then quest templates, then story and lore, and on and on. You can look at it in the map description. It's towards the bottom. I do want to talk about one final thing. It's a bit upsetting, but true, which is that I removed the sniper hero. Even with the arena, even with at least 6 or so hours, minimum, I believe, 6 hours, trying to figure it out, I just couldn't find what the fun was for the sniper. I mean, that's my fault as a designer. I'm sure that other people have found a way to do that successfully in a multitude of other games. I just didn't feel like I was up to the task, and I figured if I wasn't enjoying it, even after concerted effort, like considerable time and investment and a desire for it to be there because it was one of the originally planned classes, if I can't figure out what's fun about it, then how would anyone else figure out what's fun about it? But that's the bad news. I hope the plethora of good news beforehand more than makes up for it. And what does that mean in terms of playability? Well, you might see about another 30 seconds or a minute added to the total point before you get to the end of content for Veil of Codex. Just know that we're going to start getting really soon to the content phase, at which point we're going to ramp drastically up in the number of things that you can do in the game, and you will see the map be more fleshed out, more exploratory and allow you to actually enjoy it as an RPG. So thanks for listening. I hope that was helpful to you. And check out Veil of Codex 17. Once I get done with the level ups, we're going to update it to Veil of Codex 18. And if anything else interesting happens in the meantime, we'll have another one of these updates. All right, take care. Thanks again for playing, and bye.